Let us execute an immediate sweeping analytical vector shift away from remote Irish island bogs, whodunit multi-perspective setups, and forensic genealogy production bays, and plunge straight into the high-octane, calculation-heavy tracking grids of deceptive identity swap dynamics, weaponized surveillance evasion loops, and the fiercely protective, dangerously fragile world of an endangered collection of raw Southern society and underground tactical survival assets running a raw tactical survival loop. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, paranoia-slicked parameters of a scorched, high-density small-town Louisiana elite and clandestine bartender operation layout, exploring the lethal analytical parameters of a devastating 12-hour tracking substitution matrix with Anatomy of an Alibi, the exceptional, pulse-pounding contemporary thriller and comprehensive systemic surveillance deception compendium engineered by the absolute undisputed global sovereign of breathtaking procedural secrets, razor-sharp narrative traps, and high-velocity structural friction, Ashley Elston. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroads where an endangered primary society wife asset running an unyielding truth extraction loop, a calculating manipulative shadow network of her controlling hotshot lawyer husband, and an absolute defense against an encroaching digital tracking isolation containment zone collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn creative journeys, where endangered, hyper-observant, twin-swap style and underground investigator protagonists must navigate an absolute maze of rigged character perspectives, corrupt digital location pings, and a deadly ring of active personal deadline frame-ups while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised domestic ecosystem, where an analytical mind uses deep psychological profiling, calculated digital evasion boundaries, and absolute emotional stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory executioner asset weaponizing highly advanced marital tracking and systemic legal charm mechanics, and where the author utilizes an incandescent, meticulously paced surveillance gaslighting incubator tracking a seemingly perfect husband who deploys advanced digital monitoring and clandestine victim dossiers to systematically forge a seemingly innocent facade before crossing a terminal exposure milestone diagnostic routine to test our hero's structural limits, this book is engineered to lock you in. Elston completely dominates the high-precision, unreliable narrator jeopardy meets suffocating narrative erasure puzzles dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating blank-page paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre vargs like Gillian Flynn, Lucy Foley, Megan Miranda, and her own chart-topping blueprint, First Lie Wins, while treating realistic baseline terminology logistics, complex, dark possessive loyalty arcs, and protective high-density isolation extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse creative assets, operating under a severe calculation-heavy handicap of a total loss of privacy safety networks, absolute structural liquidation logs, and a hyper-visible targeting canvas within a cutthroat Louisiana social matrix. Behind our protagonist Camille Bayless's gilded society footprints and her counterpart Aubrey Price's sharp bartender observation metrics lies an intricate matrix of hidden structural vulnerabilities, deeply buried survival instincts, and sharp, high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Their collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight following an abrupt plot-outline deviation sequence, Camille realizing her husband Ben tracks her every digital move, and Aubrey discovering Ben holds the key to a decade-old family tragedy. Their entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden threat vectors from a network of internal distraction forces, parsing complex behavioral shifts in their daily 12-hour location swap loop, and shielding their vulnerable personal sovereignty node from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless elite homicide frame-up offensive. The spark ignites when an unexpected high-frequency structural anomaly breaches their active scanning perimeter. While sorting through a series of routine daily movements under the cover of a luxury bar setting, our primary assets register a total security breach when their husband target's psychological onboarding sequence initializes an irregular descent into active lethal containment logs, systematically tracking hidden midnight movements, forbidden identity trades, and unvetted criminal associations, forcing them into a proximity tracking matrix with an oncoming narrative resolution when Ben is discovered brutally murdered the very next morning. Behind the wealthy legal world's pristine, smooth aesthetic facade and elite behavioral mapping style lies an intricate matrix of severe ideological warfare and a cold, calculation-heavy target containment blueprint.
As the hostile adversarial investigation phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier across a ticking clock timeline, the unauthorized discovery of missing historical truth templates, hidden intimate motivations, and altered typographic tracking templates reveals that their entire identity substitution escape was an explicitly engineered trap. The standard boundaries of routine marital courtesy and peaceful civilian compliance protocols crumble, and our central protagonists run completely out of standard diplomatic escape factors. They are thrust directly into an active invisible war behind cold southern mansion doors, where a highly manipulative psychological gaslighting matrix launches aggressive countermeasures to permanently suppress their survival data stream and execute their complete systemic erasure. The tactical parameters instantly explode as their social and survival warfare turns completely active, transforming the large entertaining spaces, dark country bar lounges, and private fortified residential rooms into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone. Our protective, hyper-vigilant heroines are forced to deploy their massive intuitive tradecraft, elite behavioral mapping skills, and raw physical stamina to preserve their focus before their adversary's relentless, calculation-heavy proximity containment phase permanently deletes their boundaries. The threat vector remains purposeful and resolute, shifting dynamically through precise execution guidelines from initial 12-hour identity trait loops to final structural manuscript release loops, determined to deploy deep sensory manipulation loops, continuous psychological gaslighting via digital distraction maneuvers, and persistent dominance to shatter their defense, only to realize their hardened survival protocols and shifting counter-narratives match their opponent's raw tactical speed step for step. Every midnight archival excavation of personal legal journals, every silent choice to stand off against an electronic apex predator behind standard structural barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at their reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional, high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the Predator Network's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Ashley Elston reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial week 1 ambush or managing an invasive digital disclosure. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of domestic manipulation and absolute structural supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fiercely protective, absolute web of dark possessive loyalty around their building creative survival alliance, a brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes midstream point-of-view shifts switches the clock into its terminal phase, proving that deep-seated obsession has tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending locked grid trap and permanently secure her sanctuary, our resilient protagonist must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary lines. It is a high-velocity identity-swap psychological/digital surveillance noir, southern legal mystery/high-velocity contemporary puzzle masterpiece that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one unreliable narrator lie triggers a fatal deadline showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active franchise tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes standoff confrontation, or a heavy possessive realization that an elite intelligence operative has completely mapped your personal coordinates carries massive structural weight. Elston writes with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, perfectly capturing the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of a private executive followed before a major corporate fallout, and the distinct, subtle scent of designer heels, premium Negronis, high-end tracking devices, smartphone glare, cold sweat, dark adrenaline, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this contemporary instructional marvel into elite territory is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes relationship dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable, superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to their horizon. Anatomy of an Alibi is the definitive pro-whistle upgrade your high-stakes contemporary thriller and intense asset suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputdownable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell with your network to rewrite the data. So secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the fleet.